So, and then mind you, apparently what the coke that the guy was trading off was apparently worth $400,000. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Avery Jones Podcast. And of course, you guessed it, I am your host, Avery Jones. And this is my hat because we hat fishing all 2020 because niggas in the house haven't had a haircut in weeks. And I could be bald under here or I could have a whole bunch of hair. You'll never know. But anyway, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel, like, comment, subscribe. It's YouTube, so I have to say that 50 million times. Also, make sure you check the links in the description if you want to donate to this podcast because, you know, brother need money to put out as much positivity into the world that I can, one podcast at a time. Also, if you want to comment on the podcast, tell me how great I'm doing. Tell me what you don't like about the podcast because not everybody's going to like it, and I'm okay with that. But if you want to tell me, you can not only comment at the bottom of this video, but you can also comment by leaving a voicemail on Anchor. So that link is at the bottom too. So if you are joining me for the first time, of course, welcome to my channel. If you are coming back, then you guys know that I am a big wrestling fan. And I wanted to talk about something on the podcast that not only related to wrestling, but also I think people should just check out because it's a good docu-series. It's called Dark Side of the Ring. But I would be remiss because wrestling's such a broad spectrum, especially this particular series, and I really want to get and dive deep into it. So in order to help me do that is my boy, Gill, a.k.a. Brogi Naric. Turn on your camera, brother.
Hey, what up? What's going on?
You don't know glasses.
Yeah, I had to go get them. You know I had to go get them. We talking about wrestling. I got to get my Macho Man glasses.
Yeah, Macho Man.
Yeah. Hit them on. How y'all doing? It's your boy, Brogi Naric. In this podcast episode with my boy, Avery Jones.
Yes, sir.
I'm a YouTuber, content creator. I usually review movies, but because of the whole COVID-19, movies is kind of isolated right now. I also review TV shows, and also wrestling is another subject I talk about, and a little series I got called Bump Psychology. But yeah, I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I got a Twitch, but I don't really do anything on it right now. But all things Brogi. Oh, Twitter, all things Brogi Naric. You can search me there. And yeah, just here to talk about this recent episode of Dark Side of the Ring, which is on Vice TV, which you didn't mention, but it's on Vice.
You give me time to mention it.
Huh? Say what?
So you ain't give me time to mention it.
Oh, well, it's on Vice if you want to check it out, but there's
cool.
other ways to see it.
Yeah, I had to come to the master himself of Bump Psychology in order to get consistent play-by-play for this episode. Like I said, I could not do it by myself. I was going to allow him to I was going to introduce him to plug himself, but he seems to have that already covered. So,
I just thought that's what you wanted me to
He's like,
do.
hey, I'm just gonna start talking about my shit.
Hey,
I got a YouTube too, nigga.
I thought that's what you was letting me do, but anyway.
Nah,
yeah.
It's all good, man. It's all good. So this episode of Dark Side of the Ring. Well, first of all, like he said, it's a TV show on Vice TV that covers just like any industry, they got a dark side past the glitz and glamour that everybody sees, especially in the wrestling industry. And back in like the 80s, 90s, even like as far back as like 70s, they had like you talking about murders and like
a lot of shady stuff. Yeah.
Right, very shady stuff. Drugs,
rock and roll,
women, heroin, crack, cocaine. I'm pretty sure there's that somewhere. And so basically, Dark Side of the Ring is a series that covers just those particular aspects of wrestling that people really don't want to talk about because wrestling is a whole industry of covering shit up. So
yeah, I would say certain people don't want to talk about it, but
right, exactly. Yeah. So, but you know, thanks to I think Chris Jericho actually produced or helped produce this show
2 years ago. Dutch Mantel narrated that. Who was an old school wrestler. Chris Jericho, current wrestler. You should know who he is if you're not into wrestling. He's the narrator, but it's produced through Vice, which is like, like sort of like HBO Light, I guess, but they do various documentaries and stuff, and they just do a wrestling show. The guys, I forget the guy's name. It's two guys that are the main producers. Damn, I can't remember their names. But anyway, this is the second season. Dino Bravo is this is an interesting story that not a lot of people know about in the wrestling world. I, for myself, didn't know that much about it. And that's one of the reasons why this episode was so interesting, because it's very mysterious. It's a weird, because I'll let you get more into it. But like Dino Bravo was a wrestler, but he wasn't like, in America at least, he wasn't like the most known wrestler. But he had a very interesting life, and how it ended is what is the reason behind this episode.
Exactly. That's why I got my boy on here, because when it comes to producers and stuff like that, I'm a lie. So
I can't remember his name. Guys.
You threw out a name.
yeah, it was like Chris and two guys.
Right.
I listened to the Grilling JR podcast with Jim Ross. My God, Jim Ross. Everybody knows Jim Ross.
You think so?
It's Stone Cold. That guy. Anyway, right. He has a podcast, and since the Dark Side of the Ring has been going on, there's been an episode where he would, not him, but his co-host would talk to the producers about the previous episode, and I listened to them talk about the recent episode. So there was some stuff that they mentioned that wasn't in the show and that I know about. So I'll bring that up when we get to it.
Cool. So, like I said, I wanted to make this podcast, and not only that we both have wrestling in common, but also wanted to give somebody a really good show to watch. The episode will be... Yeah,
everybody's in quarantine. Yeah, it's definitely something good to check out.
Right. Oh, definitely. For anybody, wrestling fan or not. And the actual episode will be in the link in the description as well, if you want to go check that out as well. So let's go ahead and get into this. And, so I have a quick little notes, Gill, and just let me know. You just hop in whenever if I'm missing something or whatever. So there's a wrestler. His name's Dino Bravo, right? And he was really, really big in Quebec, Canada. And he was really big around like the 70s and 80s, around that particular time. And actually at that, what they were saying in the documentary itself, that he was actually bigger than Andre the Giant. Now, a lot of people... Whoa.
They didn't say that.
Yes, they did.
They didn't say he was bigger than Andre the Giant.
Yes, so basically they were saying that he, like, in Quebec, Canada, because...
Montreal.
I don't know, or no, that kid, they said that he was from Quebec.
Yeah, no, I'm saying he was in Montreal is the city. Like Quebec is the state, and Montreal is the city. That's
okay.
Kind of how it. Providence, whatever the fuck. It's Canada, like whatever the fuck.
Exactly.
It's basically like
So I would assume Andre the Giant was also from Quebec, Canada, and they were saying
Andre was from not France, but
wait, wasn't he from a part of France? But because that's what Ace was telling me the today.
Yeah, isn't he like Hungarian or some shit?
I think
it's
so.
Mysterious. Yeah, Andre's a mystery.
He's big in Quebec.
Yes, he's a big. Yeah, he was the Hulk Hogan of Quebec, is what they said. They didn't say Andre. They said Hulk Hogan.
No, they said Hulk. They said Andre the Giant in there. They said he could have even been as big as, or as bigger than Andre the Giant. That he was a big, mind you. The point of it, he was a big hometown hero.
He was a hometown guy. Yes.
Right. People loved him in Quebec, and so they actually teased a dream match between Dino Bravo and Hulk Hogan, but it never happened because Vince McMahon, everybody knew who Vince McMahon is, was afraid that Hulk Hogan or Dino Bravo would be more revered than Hulk Hogan was.
Which is so idiotic, because it's like, then his hometown. I hate when you hear stories about, well, Vince was going to do this match, but he was afraid that they were more popular than Hogan. It's like, just let it happen.
Right.
Like, God damn it.
Because nobody can be more popular than Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, which is like, I can't believe he went to this guy's hometown and he's the popular one. Like, what are you talking about?
70s and 80s. 70s and 80s.
It was the 80s. It was
nobody,
his hometown.
Nobody is bigger than Hulk Hogan.
Right.
70s and 80s.
Well, Ric Flair has something to say about that. But anyway.
Right. And they tried to their best to not let that happen.
Yeah, that doesn't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was going from
That's
the company.
Another episode of the Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah, but what were we talking about? Yeah, so he was a very popular guy. But that was the thing I didn't know. He was not only was he a popular star, but he was also the head. He owned part of the company. It was called International Wrestling that he was a part of, and he was also the booker of the company. Which the booker is the person who basically, when you have certain wrestling storylines and deciding who wins, who loses, that's the booker. And so not only was he a top of the company, but he was also controlling who was winning and losing. I didn't know that about him.
Mhm.
And I know they compared him a lot to Hulk Hogan, but to me it sounds more like Jerry the King Lawler.
Oh,
Jerry the
basically
King, who
him
used to be
be big in Memphis, right?
yeah, he was big in Memphis. He was the
Correct.
booker in Memphis. Him and Jerry Jarrett. He was controlling who would win, who would lose, and that stuff like that. So I was like, oh, he was more like a Jerry Lawler than he was necessarily Hulk. But like in terms of his popularity, Hulk Hogan. But like the way he was operating was more like Jerry the King Lawler, who
Exactly.
you may know sitting beside JR was Jerry the King Lawler. Puppies, that guy. So yeah, that was a very interesting thing. Also didn't know about like Hogan was there, not Hogan, Andre was there, and King Tonga or Haku Tama Tonga, not Tama
Right.
Tonga.
Yeah. King Haku was there.
King Haku was there, who was like one of the toughest guys in wrestling, and the Rougeaus, which I figured the Rougeaus would be there because they were Canadian, and then Rick Martel was also there. So it was cool hearing about how, like I said, I didn't know he ran a company, was the star of said company, and was also making money, within the company. So that was very interesting when one of the wrestlers, Jacques Rougeau, who was also known as the Mountie, was talking about how he was kind of like, he's like, yeah, it's cool to be working for Dino, but it's like, he's hogging some of the spotlight. Like, I'm young, I wanted the spotlight too, and that kind of led him to go to WWF because that's where the hot company was making all the money. So that was interesting perspective on the whole situation.
Oh, that was one of my favorite parts too, because it's just like, are you that big in your hometown because people really like you, or did you put yourself in that particular position?
True, but it seems like the people, like they said, people really liked him too, and they
Right.
they talked about how he was a hometown guy, and he had, what would they say, he had a temper, but he was one of those guys, like if he really liked you, he was all for you, and if he didn't like you, he did not fuck with you at all, and like people really gravitated to that. So I think he was popular, especially for the time what wrestling was. I think, yeah, I buy the hype. I mean, look, like I said, once again, look at Jerry Lawler. He was dope, and he's not that great of a wrestler. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But
And then,
the
like I
people
said,
in Memphis fucked with him, so it was what it was.
true. So I mean, so Dino Bravo obviously was the booker for this particular promotion, and he booked himself as, I think he was world heavyweight champion for a while too.
Yeah, they said he was the champion for ever, basically.
Yep. And so basically, at that particular time, they had territories, and Vince McMahon was poaching every single wrestler from specific territories, throwing money in their face and like, hey, here's this contract, here's this money. And
But not every wrestler, just the top guys.
the top guy,
Like,
exactly, because he
yeah,
a lot of, like, even I was looking at the Von Erich story, which is another one that they do. They were trying to get the Von Erich for a while. They just never left.
yeah,
So
because they were loyal to the family. But,
exactly. So basically, Vince McMahon is trying to get a lot of the top talent in that particular association.
area in Montreal.
Right, exactly. And so basically, what ended up happening is
He wanted Dino, but Dino,
right.
well,
No, he wanted other
took,
wrestlers.
yeah, he wanted other wrestlers. Right. Dino tried to fight him, like a lot of other promotions tried to fight him, and of course, it didn't work out because Vince had the bigger production, the bigger money. He just had all the right stuff, and a lot of companies fell to the wayside. Dino's company fell to the wayside, and I think it was 86. He went back to officially went back to the WWF. I think they said it was 86, and he left his company and joined Vince in New York. So yeah.
Right, because apparently you can't run a wrestling company without wrestlers, and most of his top guys are over there. So Vince McMahon, he obviously won against Dino Bravo to the point where he actually ended up working for the man. Dino Bravo worked for Vince McMahon. His contract was to start, on top of like bonuses and merch and stuff like that, was $300,000, which is a lot of money back then.
Yeah, a lot of money.
Yeah, and so he was just like, he didn't even make that much money in his promotion that they were saying. So,
yeah, that's how they were saying it. So it all worked out, kind of.
Right. So what are you doing with $300,000? You gonna buy some bullshit?
Basically, yeah. He bought some. He bought it. Well, he at least bought a new house. He bought a dope ass house.
Right. $1 million house.
Yeah, he built next door to his friend. What was the guy named? Tony? Was it Tony Mule? Tony Mule? Something like that.
I think so.
He worked in the promotion with him as well. He was one of the promoters at the promotion, and they were next door neighbors, and they were close friends. And yeah, he bought like was it a Corvette or some fly ass car, and he was showing it around with his daughter because he's dead. But like in the documentary, we see his wife, Danae Rives, and his daughter Claudia Braciano. And they're going through like, you know, talking about how he was when he was alive, which was interesting seeing his daughter because we had never seen, you know, as long as this has been going on, as he's been gone, we haven't heard from the family say much of anything. They've been very
They didn't want to.
yeah, they've been very reserved about about doing any of this. And the guys who did the producers behind this had mentioned the story of how this episode was supposed to be in the first season, because the first season was supposed to be 10 episodes, but they only ended up doing 6. So they had started working on this episode, the assassination of Dino Bravo, a little bit. And in the time that they got to go back to it, they only had the daughter. They had only interviewed the daughter at first because the mom didn't want to be involved. But as time went on and they eventually got her convinced and they got her into the episode. So that really helped because without the mom, I think it would have been even limited more to what they had. So
right, because the daughter was like 4 at the time, I think, around that
like
time.
5 or 6, some shit like that.
Because they said that he, with all the money that he had, he ended up buying his daughter like a red sports car at the age of 4.
That's right. Yeah, he did buy her a sports car. That's what it was. He would sit in the car and they would drive in it from time to time and everything. I was like, that is insane. But
right,
he liked the lifestyle. I think the wife was saying like it wasn't necessarily show off to other people. It was just something he felt like he should have. You know, he deserved that.
Right, because he was saying because he came, you know, they wouldn't say the man came from poverty, but when you get like you level up, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
$300,000 per year.
Yeah,
so I think he was employed there until 1992, I think, and this is from like the 80s. So he stayed. Dino Bravo stayed there for quite some time, but he just wasn't evolving with the product. So, which ultimately led to him getting fired. And like I said, I'm just going to go through a quick synopsis and then kind of go into detail.
Yeah, he was there for like 8 years, almost a decade.
Right, exactly.
Which is crazy because like I said, I was not familiar with Dino Bravo. The first time I at least was aware of him was I watched this series on YouTube called OSW Review. They review old school wrestling pay-per-views, mainly during the Hulk Hogan era. And when they got to those, like when they would review like WrestleMania like 7 and 8 and certain SummerSlams and stuff like that, I was like, I don't know who Dino Bravo is, but that was my first time being introduced to him, to, you know, the Canadian heel with the blonde hair and all that. Like I was like, I'm a wrestling fan, but even I don't know who this guy is. But
right,
and he, you know, was with the company for 10 years. It's like, huh, you know, so
exactly. So
a lot.
Around that time, he didn't. They were saying that he really didn't involve in regards to like his working style or the way he wrestled, and
yeah, that was Jacques who said that. Yeah,
right. And then the his promo work. So if you don't know what a promo is like when people scream and yell at the camera and talk at wrestlers and stuff like that. So he had broken English, so those weren't really well. So they ended up letting him go in like 1992. He got mixed in with some bad people. We're going to say that for right now. Get mixed in with some bad people after the fact because he needed to make money. Wrestling is all he knew. And then, you know, man ends up dead. So
yeah,
he ends up murdered.
And there's some some mystery behind him dying. But yeah, we can get more into like his career because in the WWF, because that was the whole thing that they brought up. Besides the whole manager, because there was one manager he had that they didn't mention, which was Frenchie Martin, which was his first manager he had, who was basically just stereotypical French guy, wee wee, blah blah, all that stuff. And then that kind of subsided, and then they got him with Jimmy Hart, and then Jimmy Hart being the more liked person, I guess that kind of helped him move up in the ranks a little bit. But he was always at that base level where he, you know, he was one of the enemies of Hulk Hogan. And once Hogan was done with you, that was pretty much all they had for you after that. And he was kind of getting tired of always losing, basically. Like he like Dino felt he should be used better than what Vince saw him as. And Jock brings up a very good point where he's like, you know, when you go to the WWF or the WWE, don't take your ego with you, because anything that you think you're not going to do or don't want to do is going to happen, and you're going to have to deal with it, because Vince is like that. Like if he can tell there's something you don't like, he's going to force you to do it or do his best to make you do it. try to convince you to do it. And one of those things was dyeing his hair blonde, which may not sound like the biggest problem, but when you're like this, he was an Italian guy from Canada who was this, he was a good guy. He was a baby face.
Right.
And
proud of who he was.
He was proud of who he was and his heritage. So Vince was like, I'm going to fuck with you. I'm going to give you bright blonde hair and make you look like an idiot. Now, there were other people who were already doing the bright blonde hair thing, but that worked for them. For Dino, it did not work. And he could tell Dino didn't like it, but Vince liked it because I'm assuming he thought it was funny. So that was part of his new look, was to dye his hair blonde. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but knowing it bothers the guy, I think that kind of affected him to a degree. And I guess after a while, he was kind of like, you know what, I'm kind of done with this. I'm burnt out. And he retired. So
did Dino retire? Now, before I ask that question, now Vince has a way of, if he knows that he shuts you down and then you have to work for him, he's going to make a fool out of you.
Yeah, he does have a history of doing that. Yeah,
$300,000 to own you. Bet I have the money anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna throw it away. I'm gonna give it to you. Now I own you. Whatever I need to do to you or want to do to you, I can. Simple.
Basically, yeah.
So Dino didn't retire, did he? He got fired.
Well, the way they said, I was looking on Wikipedia, said retired, and the way they said in the documentary, he just said he quit. He didn't get fired. He was just done. And he essentially retired because he didn't wrestle anymore. That's the one thing that they mention it, but they don't stress how he retired in 92. What was it like? Yeah, he retired in 1992, and then he died in March 93. He was less than a year from the business before he was killed.
Right.
And I find that very weird. They don't really explain, like, if he left the WWE or the WWF, and he's like, damn, I got all these bills and I need money, and all I know is wrestling, why didn't he go to WCW? It's not like WCW didn't exist. Like, it's because WCW was around at the time. It wasn't big, but it was the second big company. You would think, like, oh, I'm a wrestler, I left WWF, let me just go to the competition.
I think he didn't want to up and move his family again. I think they said something about that.
I didn't hear anything about it. He didn't move his family. They stayed in Quebec. That's what I'm thinking. Like, did he not know anyone at WCW? Because there was a time when those companies were kind of separated to a degree because everyone was in a territory.
Were they hot? Well, they weren't that hot back then. Like Dino, you're talking about a guy that
number 2 company.
True, you're talking about the guy that owned the company at first.
Yeah.
Going to WWF at the time for $300,000. You're like, he couldn't even match that. He wanted to be able to hold up the lifestyle that he had for his family.
True. So, but I just found that was weird. It's like, okay, I could continue wrestling at the second biggest company, or I'll just start doing some mob shit. I'll do some mob shit.
Right.
I got a wife and family. I could, get another job, or I could do some gangster shit. I guess I'll just do gangster shit. Like, it's like,
you had the connections.
True. That was another thing I didn't know about, that they mentioned. The Vic Catroni, who was like the first mob boss in Quebec, Canada, was his uncle, which was interesting. But now what they don't say, which I thought was interesting, in the documentary they say that was his uncle, but when I listened to them talk about it on JR's podcast, he was his uncle through marriage, not blood related.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, that was his uncle through marriage, not through blood. So I was like, because at first I was like, yeah, how did they kill the mob boss's uncle? But then when I found out it was through blood, it was through marriage, not through blood. I was like, oh, okay, I can kind of see how maybe that, kind of happened now.
So Vic Catroni ended. Somebody killed him too.
No. I was just.
Are you talking about? Somebody killed the mob boss's nephew, not his.
Yeah, his nephew, which is Dino Bravo, because that was his uncle.
Right, but yeah,
I was thinking like it would be weird that they killed the big mob boss's nephew, but then it's like, oh, well, it's not his nephew through blood, it's through marriage. So it's like, oh, it's a little bit different. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think Vic Catroni was like the way they were making it seem. It didn't seem like he was living during that particular time.
I think he was still like he probably wasn't as big, but like he was still like,
because I think it was somebody under him under him that was running all the stuff that
doing something else.
That Dino Bravo actually got attached with. So we go from Dino Bravo owning his own wrestling promotion. Right. He's big time there. Everybody loves him there. Then he gets bought out by Vince McMahon. After he gets bought out by Vince McMahon, he ends up working, ironically, for Vince McMahon as well. He ends up basically making a mockery of this guy. So he dyes his hair blonde, makes him this generic, anti-American.
He does that a lot with a lot of foreigners, especially Canadians.
Yeah.
which makes no sense. It's like, yeah, we hate
I
those
speak French.
Canadians.
I'm better than you.
Right. It's like, oh, you know what's worse than a Nazi? Them damn Canadians.
Damn
Like, because
Canadians.
every Canadian wrestler at some point has that gimmick where they're just like,
Kevin Owens had
screw
that.
America.
He's still doing
Man,
it.
oh, does he? Kind of.
He had it. Remember the whole United States thing?
Oh, that's right. He did have the U.S. belt. Yep. Kevin Owens had it. Bret Hart had it. Jericho, was it Jericho, Christian, and Lance Storm? They were a group that hated America for like a hot second.
I'm surprised he didn't do it with Edge. So surprised.
Well, Edge was separate. So, but yeah, you're right. They didn't do it with Edge. What was another Canadian? Well, Dino Bravo and Earthquake was with him. Yeah, it's just weird. This is like of all the countries that hate America, the one country we haven't had a war with. That's
exactly
hate America. Like such a weird gimmick. But anyway.
So we do that. He does that generic thing, and then he either retires. It's not clear to me, at least. He either quits or retires from the WWF, or not. Yeah, either quits or retires. Somebody fired him. I'm not sure. So
he gone from the business.
And right. So he's that happened in 1992, and then the interesting stuff where Dino is just like, I gotta provide for my family, wrestling or gangster shit.
Yeah,
gonna do some gangster shit.
I'm gonna do gangster shit. Like I'm just gonna join the
mob,
the Quebec mob, the Montreal Mafia.
Right.
And he was they said he was an enforcer. Basically, he was like, if you late on some payments, Dino was the guy to come there and break a few fingers or bust you up a little bit, which he was perfect for because he was a big burly man himself. So
Dino Bravo, definitely look him up. I might put a picture around here somewhere, but he was a big dude.
He was a burly son of a bitch. So yeah,
right. So I think somebody was telling a story about how they were in a bar or something.
It was Jock.
Jock. It was.
Yes,
okay.
It was Jock.
So
yeah.
The Mountie was telling the story about how they were in a bar and they were watching some type of hockey game because hockey's really big in Canada. And somebody said something.
I forget what team it was. He was a big fan of, and there was the guy who was from the rival team, and Jock was talking shit. And then he was drunk. He was 18. He was drunk. He was talking shit, and he tried to fight him. And yeah, go ahead.
And then they somehow get outside.
You don't remember. That's why you said you only watched the episode.
No,
so
I remember that
Jock
part.
said he tried to punch the guy. The dude saw him. He ducked, and Jock hit the wall. The dude grabbed him and was about to rough him up. And then Dino came in and tried to break it up. But then the dude started talking shit to Dino and said something about phony. And then Dino took the guy outside and slammed his head into the dude's Corvette. And yeah, that's what happens.
Right. So I
jumped the man.
I get to the most exciting part. He slammed this man's head into a Corvette.
Yeah.
like that should show you how big this dude is. Slams the dude.
And his temper. Because they always mention his temper. The guy that was helping tell him the story, Gino Brito, who's in the documentary, he also worked at International Wrestling, a friend of Gino's. I've seen he was like a mentor because he was a wrestler too. He helped train them. And one of the things that wasn't mentioned that when the video I showed you that Hannibal was talking about, who's from Canada, he mentioned that Gino Brito is also connected to the mafia, but they never mentioned that in the documentary. That guy had mafia ties too. So
wait, you said Gino? Wait, I didn't see. This is why I got him on the podcast because I don't know who Gino Brito.
He was the old guy that was in the documentary that was talking.
Oh, the other old guy. Okay.
Yeah. The other one. Yeah. That also worked with Dino Bravo, who was his friend, sort of mentor as well. Who sounds like he's like an extra from a Scorsese film. But yeah, Hannibal was like, yeah, that guy also has mafia ties, but they never mentioned that in the documentary. I was like, interesting.
Because like, I'm not ratting on this man.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, look, I'm not. Look, this ain't about me.
Right. Listen.
We're talking about some wrestling.
What I really found interesting, so especially if you check out the episode, you'll see that they weren't smuggling heroin. Crack.
Yeah, that's the crazy
okay. It was smuggling cigarettes.
Yeah, they were smuggling cigarettes like they was in prison. I'm like, damn, cigarettes was like that in Canada?
It was that high. Like
in the 90s.
How high was a pack of cigarettes for you to have to smuggle them?
Yeah, because they were saying they were saying the taxes must have been really high, so cigarettes were very expensive, very popular. And they were smuggling them from the native the Indian reservations because they were cheaper because I guess the laws of the taxes are different, so they were cheaper on the native reservations, and they were smuggling them into the I guess Canada or whatever.
Mm.
And that was a big business. They were saying that was bigger than the cocaine business. You know, like people was really into those cigarettes. I'm like, damn, okay,
imagine, right? Exactly.
Yeah, like really, okay.
So now we got this. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was about to say they had a reporter there who's a crime investigator and reporter who mainly focuses on the mafia, and he was talking about how like the Quebec government and law enforcement is very corrupt, and there's a lot of shady shit that goes on. So it was a very wild west type of area for the most part, which is like you don't necessarily think of the most gangster shit in Canada, but like Canada can get gangster when he wants to. So yeah,
apparently, especially. Yeah. Killed this man, but so basically, well, catching you up now on like kind of highlights of everything. So Dino Bravo is the muscle for a mafia family, the controlling mafia family at this time. They're smuggling cigarettes. Now, what I want to get into is they have this theory, the $400,000 theory, and I wanted to talk this out with you because I'm like I wouldn't say I'm like, it's not a confusing thing, but I think like. It's kind of like they had, so basically the family itself wanted to get into the cocaine or into like the whole cocaine thing in the States.
Well, first of all, this is all rumor. We don't know how much of this is
true.
It's
facts. No, I'm just
no. This is rumor because they mentioned that in the documentary. That's why I call it a theory now. Yeah, because they there was one guy they say in the Jacques had mentioned there was one wrestler that Dino Bravo who was really close with that he told most of his shady shit that he was doing to. And that was Rick Martel. And Rick Martel was not in this documentary, which was a disappointment because that was one of the things I was looking forward to is seeing Rick Martel because he hasn't really done much with anything with wrestling in years, which is the reason why he wasn't in this documentary because he doesn't want to do anything with wrestling anymore. But they showed a clip of him from another shoot interview where he was basically spilling all the tea about allegedly what was going on with Dino and how he was getting the cigarettes from the natives. And it was cool because he was a popular wrestler and the natives love wrestling. So that was like an end for him to have the connection. And he was selling the cigarettes. Apparently there was some local big cocaine dealer who tried to make a deal with Dino. They was like, hey, we selling cocaine, but this cigarette shit is hot. So let us get a cut of that. And then we'll let you get a cut of the cocaine. And what was it? It was like, there was a factory where
they were going to meet and do the trade off.
Do the trade, right, yeah. Right. Dino had the box of cigarettes, which was that the box that was worth $400,000?
Yeah, the box
on the black market.
Right, and they were gonna, I guess, pick that up and then drop the coke off. Now, mind you, so I guess what happened is the guy gets there, and by the time he gets there, the police are there because they really didn't found out about this because it'd been sitting there for a couple of days.
Yeah, I think they said when the place that they did the trade off was already under surveillance by the police. Okay. And they happened to see Dino there that first day. So the police were watching it. And then by the time the third day when the guy showed up, who was a known drug dealer, and they saw him coming in there to pick up the cigarettes, then that's when he got caught. Right. And then people are thinking like that mishap is probably what led to him getting shot because he got another guy in trouble where he probably should have picked a better place to do the drop off. But Dino was like, hey, you should have picked the shit up earlier. But it's like you picked a place that was already under surveillance like a dumbass.
Right.
Like, yeah, it was not a good look either way.
And it was cool.
Okay, that was worth. Okay. So the box was worth. I think. Okay, that's what it was. The box of cigarettes was worth around $53,000, and the cocaine was $400,000. And because that guy got caught, the cigarettes and the cocaine got seized, and that caused a lot of heartache between different people. So yeah.
And then so I think they were doing when they was interviewing the Mountie. Yeah. He was like, I think the interviewer was like, "Do you think that's enough to kill somebody over?" He was like, "Do you think it's enough to kill?"
Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, I think so." Yeah, and I think the reporter, one of the reporters was like, "Shit, people have been killed for less."
Right.
So yeah, exactly. And I was like, "Very good point."
Exactly. So basically, that they're saying theories now that's what ultimately led to Dino Bravo's death. So now we fast forward on the night of his death. So basically what happened is he's in his house, he's chilling on the sofa or whatever, I'm trying to set the tone. His daughter and his wife she's taking her to ballet. They're just coming back
Yeah.
or whatever. They come in the house, and then Dino apparently has a remote in his hand. He's facing the TV. She finds out, runs next door, and is just like, tells the next door neighbor who is Dino's friend. It's just like, oh my God, he's dead. So it was like 7 bullets to his head and 11 to his body, or was the opposite?
It was 7 to the head, 4 to the body.
7 to the head.
It was 11 altogether. 7 bullets to the head, 4 to the body.
Right, and so they were saying that's like mafia style assassination right there.
Well, that's where some of the other theories come in. They were saying it was an assassination. Some people were saying it was mafia style. Other people was like, well, no, the mafia is a little more classier than that. They wouldn't necessarily kill you in your home. They probably kill you when you're out in the street or something like that. Others were saying, then there was the theories like, well, there are 2 guys there because there was the 2 guns were 2 different bullet casings, style of bullet casings were left. 2 different guns were found on the scene. Were they shooting from 2 different angles? Was it one guy to make it look like it was 2 different people? You know, there was 11 shots to his body, but I think they said there was like 27 casings altogether or something like that. So there was other shots shot at other places. Other theories was like, was it mafia hit? Was it the natives that, you know, one guy I think was one of his cousins, or he was connected to the Patroni family. He was like, oh, the Indians was the ones behind it. And then the reporter was like, well, I've been reporting for 30 years and I've never seen the natives kill anyone offside of the reservation. Now, could they have hired someone to kill them? That's possible. Was it a rogue bike gang that killed them? That's possible. But we don't know. And yeah, it was weird. The other thing I thought was weird, his friend was a next door neighbor. There was like 27 shots. He didn't hear anything
at all. And I'm like, you gonna leave the guns on the scene of the crime?
Yeah, that's the other thing. They left the guns there and the bullet casings.
It's like, now mind you, this is a case that's still open in Canada right now. So
yeah, because they didn't have the police. The police didn't. Yeah, exactly. That's why it's super shady. It's like the police didn't interview anyone because it's still, or the police didn't do an interview for the documentary because it's still an open case. This was 93, mind you. This case is like 26 years old now. It's like Jesus. But yeah, I thought that was weird because I was like, wait, his friend didn't hear anything? Because they showed the houses. The houses weren't that far apart. Now, maybe the guns had suppressors on them and he didn't hear anything. That's possible because it was a big house. That's possible. But
they were also saying that they were saying that like that is something that was a big possibility too, because I think they were saying something about like nobody heard anything. And then, you know, also
no forced entry was the thing.
Right.
That was the other thing. They was like, the door was unlocked, but it's like, was it unlocked because Dino let him in, or was it unlocked because it was already unlocked, or they had a key? I'm thinking someone had a key and either snuck in. But then, like Jock was saying, he was sitting in his recliner. He didn't get up. If Jock was like, he must have known the guys because he was still sitting in his recliner when he got shot.
And then on top of that, he could have just known what it was. He's like, you know what?
That too.
You know? Like if somebody like comes in, you know these guys. Oh yeah, I'm kind of.
Yeah, he's like, I'm fucked. But then again, as they said, Dino was a guy who would fight. So, but then so there's a lot of different ways to look at it. And then the other thing that was very interesting, which they brought up in the documentary, before he got killed, that area that he was living in was like a hotbed for like a lot of different mafia guys where they would live. I heard they had mentioned like what was it, like 4 months before he got killed, one guy got killed who was connected to the mafia, and then like some months after Dino got killed, another guy got killed that was connected to the Montreal mob. So it's like it was a lot of shady shit going on in that area, you know.
Right. And so, I completely forgot about the whole like him starting to hang out with people he normally doesn't hang out with.
Yeah, that was another thing.
It could have been a play in it. You know what I'm saying? Jealous, whatever.
That was another unique thing the wife knew about. Like he told the wife like, yeah, I'm smuggling cigarettes, and she was kind of like, it is what it is. Like she was, she didn't have no. Normally, sometimes when you see stories like this, and they're like, oh, he's changed, I got to get out of this. But like at this point, it's like, fuck it.
You're right.
Fuck it.
If you're a woman and you live in $1 million house, and you
exactly. She was like,
shit, do what you got to do, brother.
She's like, I'm a bartender and a ballerina. I ain't got shit else going on. Yeah, let's sell them cigarettes. What else?
So I mean, and it's just sad, like I said, how all the stuff went down. It is an open case, like I said. People can go back and look it up if that's something you're interested in. There was something. My whole thing behind it was these people. Well, they're saying that they were waiting until the girl and her mom left, or the mom and the girl left.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's somebody you trust, I feel like they were there beforehand. I just feel like for whatever reason, I feel like she's not saying everything she knows.
It's possible. I mean, the mom didn't say anything. It was the daughter that was talking, because the mom didn't want to talk about it.
Right, exactly.
And the daughter was fucking 6 when it happened. So, how good is her memory?
Exactly. And I don't,
you know what I'm saying?
I think she's holding out information because she's like, I don't want to die.
Possible.
Yeah. And I think
she also doesn't, it was such a heartbreaking, like she said, she sold all of his stuff. She gave it to family members, but she's like, all his wrestling shit, she got rid of it.
Right. She didn't want it.
Yeah. So it's kind of, yeah.
So
that's sad. That whole moment when the little girl was talking about, she was Claudia was talking about how she went to the funeral and she had the little drawing she did and put it on this casket.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Apparently it was like an open casket. Like, he got shot 7 times in the face. Why is it an open casket? But it was an open casket.
Right.
And she said she couldn't recognize his face, but she could tell by his hands, because he had like such big hands, and like how the nails were. She could tell that was her dad. I was like, that was like one of the saddest moments in the whole episode.
Right.
She was going over that. I'm like, geez, that is,
they ruthless. And
yeah,
that's apparently over them cigarettes.
I know, right? Like, oof. Well, he fucked up a coke deal too, so
yeah. Right. It's your dad. It's like now when coke's involved, it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
So So basically, that's the story of Dino Bravo in a nutshell. You owned the promotion. He got fired from that promotion, or not fired.
It got closed up. Yeah.
Yeah. That promotion got taken over. He worked for the guy he was going against in that whole battle. Then after that, he got fired, retired, or whatever, still up in the air. And then got tied around with some mafias, messed up a $400,000 deal, allegedly. And then ends up mysteriously getting murdered in it's still open till this day. How many years ago was that? 26 years ago.
93.
And then now once again, like you were saying, that the cops weren't willing to talk, which is crazy, because they talked in Jimmy Superfly Snuka's one, which is another.
That was America though. This is Canada.
True. I guess they want to keep under wraps what the hell they doing over there.
Yeah.
So without even realizing it, we talked about every single thing on there except for, we talked about Rick Martel. I think
a little bit.
Right. And I think there was something I was going to say about Rick Martel, but I forgot. Oh, that's what I was going to say. They were saying that like a week before he died, he was afraid that he was going to die. You remember that part?
Yeah, he called it was not a week. It was like 2 days before he died. He had called Jacques, and he had asked Jacques like, "Hey, how you doing? I want to talk to you." And Jacques was like, it was kind of weird because him and Dino weren't cool.
Right.
But he was like, all right, I'll come to see you tomorrow because, I'm busy right now. And I think Jacques said he was like probably an hour, 2 hours away. He stopped at the gas station about to go see him. And the guy at the gas station showed him the newspaper, and like Dino Bravo was dead.
Right. Or I think he was like, did you hear about your boy or something?
Yeah. He said, you heard about your friend? He got it. And he was like, what? And he looked at the newspaper and it's like, Dino Bravo's dead. I was like, oof, that's
hard.
So yeah, he knew some shit was about to go down. He was yeah.
And I really feel like he was just in wait for it. Like he was just like, I know something's about to happen. I'd have messed up this deal. This man done gone to jail.
Yeah.
You're gonna catch me. It's just crazy how they knew this man lived. But then again, they're the mafia. So
yeah,
if that was the people that killed him,
he's a Dino Bravo. Like everyone, that was the other thing. It's like people know who he is. It wasn't like he was some random dude. This was like a celebrity. And now he's doing some gangster shit. It's like, okay, yeah, that's like. That'd be like if friggin' I'm trying to think who's a basketball player who just recently that would be like if Paul Pierce, he's retired. Instead of being on ESPN, he's now slinging crack in Austin. They'd be like, what the fuck is Paul Pierce out here slinging crack for?
You're Paul Pierce.
You're Paul Pierce.
Get out of here.
I'll take some. You're right, yeah, it'd be weird, right?
Not keep me moving.
Right, exactly. This is Kevin Garnett right here with fucking heroin. Like, all right, it's like, what's going on? This is some weird shit, But anyway, yeah.
The video that I looked at is gonna be in my description. But if you want to watch him on the day that they come out, then
which is Tuesdays at 10
Tuesdays at 10 on Vice.
Have you seen the other episodes that came out this season?
I don't know, was Jimmy Superfly Snuka on this season?
Yeah, that was the one before this.
Yeah, I saw that one. How many episodes?
It was Benoit Part 1 and 2.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Brawl for All and Snuka.
I have
seen this one, so they've done 5.
Yeah, the Brawl for made me finally realize why Vince Russo is a complete idiot.
Yeah. Well. Before we end it, that's why I wanted to ask you. Like, of the 5 that they dropped, what's your favorite, or like how did you feel about this past one? Is it your favorite or?
My favorite personally would
from this season, not in general. I'm just saying from this season.
From this season would definitely probably have to be the Chris Benoit story.
Yeah, that's how
because it was so anticipated. They were advertising about that, I think, around the first season. I think when I first stumbled upon this thing, and I was looking for that particular episode, and I was just like, where is it? I want to see it.
Yeah.
I finally got the opportunity to see it. I think that was one of my favorite. The Jimmy Superfly Snuka one was really good. Don't get me wrong, the Dino Bravo was interesting, and I caught the majority of it, but I was nodding off. So just to be honest, so that's probably my least favorite one, but it's still interesting nonetheless.
I would say it's my second favorite because there was so much I learned from it. Because the second one, I knew most of that stuff, so it didn't really. Besides the whole stuff with the cop, which was super shady, most of that stuff I was aware of, but the Dino one I didn't know that much about. So I would say it's my second favorite out of the ones that y'all. Because the first one would have to be the 2-parter with Benoit.
Right. I think the Brawl for All was just really funny and Bart.
The Brawl. Oh, New Jack. That was the other one. That's the one.
Yeah, that was the
New
season.
Jack. Yeah, that was the season. That was the other one. That was the second one. New Jack. Yeah, that shit was wild. The New Jack one was pretty wild too.
Oh, if you want to laugh, and if you want to watch something interesting for a quick second,
watch that New Jack episode.
Watch the Dark Side of the Ring New Jack.
Yeah, if you want to see some insanity and just be like, how, if you're like, man, wrestling is some fake ass boy. No, watch that that New Jack episode because he was fucking people up for real.
And he's black, and you're talking about he's pushing everybody's buttons in the South.
Oh yeah, he was getting it in. God. That OJ promo is amazing,
iconic.
That's an iconic. I forgot about it, and then when they showed that, I was like, "Oh yeah, I have seen this clip. This shit is insane."
Hey brother, you're doing good work.
He's like, "OJ, you're doing good." He said, "That's 2 down. You're doing a good." I was like, "Oh, this nigga's wild. This nigga wild."
Yo, I'm telling you that is probably the funniest. I completely forgot about the episode.
Yeah, I did too. It did.
Mind you, Dino Bravo is something for you crime solvers and something that people that like documentaries about murder and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people that do. But if you're looking for something that's just funny, or if you want to see how legitimate wrestling is, look at the New Jack episode.
Yeah, the New Jack episode.
Matter of fact, just because you said it, I'm going to put it in a link in the description.
Yeah.
Along with Bravo. So, I saw a pretty interesting question on Instagram I wanted to ask you. If you were to make a Dark Side of the Ring episode, what would it be about?
That's a good one.
I should have gave you time to prepare for this.
You should have gave me a little time. There's one, people have talked about it to death. Actually, that probably would be a little fucked up if they did that one.
Which one? I was
thinking about Ultimate Warrior.
I think that would have been a good episode. And then whoever they got to play the actor would have been pretty cool to see too.
Yeah, Ultimate Warrior maybe, but I don't know how much they would want to get into that because Ultimate Warrior was kind of wild guy. I'm trying to think of another. Oh, one that I heard about that actually I don't know if they're gonna do. Adrian Adonis. I remember that someone had told them that would be an interesting one because Adrian Adonis was a wrestler back in the 70s, early 80s. He was a good wrestler, and then for some reason he just got really fat, and then he started dressing up. He was one of the earlier in lucha wrestling, it's called the what is it called? It's basically like the sort of your character, your wrestling character, and you're acting gay or whatever. And he was wearing the flowery dresses and all of that.
Right? Are you talking about the dude that
and the blonde hair? He fought Piper at what was it WrestleMania 2 or 3?
Was he from England or something?
No, he wasn't from England. He was from America, but he was a fat dude. Well, he was a stocky guy, but then he just got really fat, and he came back and he was wearing flower dresses, and he was a bad guy, and he had that match with Piper where they had the hair match. But he died, I think, it was like a car accident, or he died of some sort of weird overdose or something like that. It was some shady, crazy way how he died. But I think that would be an interesting episode. It's just kind of
I would like to see it because I don't know who it is. Sound like
yeah. Look up Adrian Adonis. You would recognize him when you would see him because he was really he just got really fat out of nowhere, and then he was. I swear to God, it was just like he was like a mid-sized guy, and I know he just got really fat, and then it was like, all right, let's picture in the house dress and make it fucking be weird. He was kind of like early, I guess, kind of like Agent Street and Goldust. He kind of had that sort
That's
of.
what I was thinking about. Adrian Street.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
about.
you're thinking Agent Street, who you was thinking. Yeah, he was sort of like Agent Street. Yeah, but not quite as flamboyant. But yeah, I guess he would be the closest thing in that time. Or I guess that would be cool. Or I mean, they don't really need to do a Jake the Snake episode. He's in a lot of these episodes anyway. He's done so much crazy shit.
Right. I don't think he needs to be per se, because once again, it's just kind of another story of like, hey, Jake the Snake lived the life of rock and roll. He did a lot.
But no, Jake is different though, because he was wilding out. So no, I can see them wanting to do an episode, but it's like they've done it, kinda.
There was a you remember you told me to watch the WCW or WCCW documentary.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it, and there was this guy that was really hot, and he was a Mexican, or he was
Gino
like
Hernandez.
Yeah,
they did that. They did that in the first season.
They did.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
They did that episode. Yeah, they did that episode.
I need to like check out the first season because I was like, I want to see that. I want to see.
Yeah, they did that episode. Yeah, that was a good episode. The Gino Hernandez one. Yeah, they did that first season. Yeah, they did that first season. I guess Ultimate Warrior. Like, if you want name recognition, but I don't think WWE would allow that one because since he's like, his wife was working for the company, and
no, true.
He's like back in good graces, kind of the company. But like, if they want, and like, I mean, Ultimate Warrior was wilding out, like some of his political views and religious views. Like, I don't know how they want to get into all of that, but yeah, I'm trying to think of another. What would be your pick?
That was going to be my pick. The Gino Hernandez.
Yeah, they already did that.
Right, exactly. I don't really know of any other like scandals like in that they haven't already done. Like, I wanted to see Macho Man. Obviously, that's done. I don't know.
Again, the one that just popped in my mind. I don't know how much of a scandal because it's kind of hearsay-ish, but maybe Bill DeMott.
You know who I do want? Oh, you said Bill.
Yeah, with some of his training practices.
Exactly. I would like to see actors do that.
Right. It was like, I don't know.
Oh, I had.
The ring boy stuff. I guess that's another one they could do.
True. I would like
that was a scandal.
I would like to see one not with like I said, Jake the Snake wouldn't be bad. Oh, I would like to see one with Owen Hart.
They're gonna do that at the end of the season.
Oh, they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Owen Hart's gonna be the season finale.
Oh, that's man, that's gonna be.
Yeah. No, okay. I got it wrong. It's not gonna be Road Warriors. Dr. Death is gonna be next. Then I think Road Warriors is after. Dr. Death. Dr. D. David Schultz.
Yeah,
where he slapped the shit out of John Stossel is gonna be next.
Because that's where we'll be.
Brogi space NARIC.
And that's literally the perfect place to do it because it's bump psychology.
That actually would be cool.
It's gonna be so cool. Yep, that's what we're doing.
We might have to do that. Yeah, we're gonna have to do that. Shit.
Right, Dr. David.
We're gonna have to do that.
Take your notes, watch your episode, all that.
Let's do that. Yeah, let's do that.
Fantastic. We found out something on the podcast.
Yay!
We'll be. So you got anything else?
Check it out. It's a good series. Even if you're not into wrestling, some of the scandal stuff is interesting. The way it's shot is very interesting. The first episode of the season, the Brenoir episodes, are on the Vice YouTube channel. You can watch them there. Also, the first episode of the first season, the Bruiser Brody, the Death of Bruiser Brody, is the first episode. It's also on their Vice YouTube channel. Check them out. Very good episodes. Very unique. Very interesting stuff. So, just gives you a taste of what the show is about. But yeah. That's
very, very well produced. Even if you know absolutely nothing about wrestling, it's a really good show to watch, especially in quarantine. It'll probably
Yeah.
actually, get you through about an hour. So especially if you want to watch other stuff as well, or watch other episodes as well. So if that is all you got, that's all I have. Thank you so much, Gill, aka Brogi Naric, for being on my YouTube channel and help me figure out that this is what we're gonna do from now on.
Yeah.
Said I wanted to bring my boy on here and get his expertise on the wrestling biz and how he felt about kind of a blast from the past with this whole dark side of the ring thing. Got his opinion on, and that's what that's where we link on. That's where we connect, is through wrestling. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Avery Jones Podcast. And there's something that I always say before I leave, other than make sure you like, comment, and subscribe and share. Don't forget to share. Tell your peoples about it. But stay blessed. And I don't care what color you are. Make sure you stay black.
Stay black. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.